What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 new most broken builds in part of Exile's 2 new update, The Dawn of the Hunt. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on, then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it, and then finally we will go over the passive skill tree, stats, your skill rotations, and even what charm should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. Also, if you're interested in buying other PC or console games with 50 or 70% discount, then check out Instant Gaming. For example, I want to buy Elden Ring, so we just click on Add to Cart, then click Pay, then input our details and pay. After payment is complete, we will receive activation key, then copy and paste the key in, and it's that simple. So what are you waiting for? Click my link description and check out Instant Gaming for yourself. This setup is structured around using Contagion in combination with other chaos skills that will curse and explode enemies in very wide area. Overall, our main spammable skills have quite high mana cost to make it efficient, and that's why we are going to be using a wand like the Life Spring, which leeches percentage of max life when you cast spells. And on top of this, we can also use Asterisk Accuracy Gloves to get instant leech from our critical hits, so then this combination would completely remove the mana from equation and give us the ability to infinitely spam chaos skills and do massive amounts of damage without worrying about anything. The main gameplay idea behind our setup is to one-shot most enemies, and as they will die, they will continuously replenish our life and energy shield. However, for bosses, we will need to be careful, as not getting stun-locked is our main priority, and that's why we will use a specific setup, such as putting Despair in our multiple skill slot and much more. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Witch and our ascendancy is Lich. Then for the first skill we have Contagion with Unleash and Magnified Effect. Then second we got the Withering Presence with Persistence. Then next we got Essence Drain with Pierce, Swift Affliction and Profanity. Next we have Despair with Decaying Hex and Heightened Curse. Then for the next one we have Blasphemy with the Hex Bloom, Despair and Ritualistic Curse. Then next we got the Frost Bomb with Fast Forward and Spell Cascade. And finally, we're using Shield Charge with the Martial Tempo. Most of this setup is structured around using Contagion with the Essence Drain to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at the spell and minion damage node, and then go like this while taking these 3, so Open Mind, Raw Destruction and Practice Signs. Then next we keep on going to the left and get everything until the spiral into Insanity. Then from here we circle back a little and keep on going until we get Entropy, and then take right. Then when we are here we want to get all of these, so first up take the top side and then the bottom side, and then again keep on going until we get to the actual end and then take right. And when we get to here, then get both of these, so Dark Entries and the Patient Barrier. And now finally from here we can go down and get this whole left side, but usually at this point you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game to make our build functional, and then later on the priority won't really matter that much. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and gems, and then after that spend the rest in intelligence. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Soulless form. This offers substantial benefits. It will require careful balancing of life and energy shield values, and investing in energy shield is crucial, as it serves as a buffer that prevents life loss. However, if your energy shield is depleted, the bypass damage will affect your life, which makes it essential to manage both resources effectively. Then second we want the Eternal Life. When we combine this with the Soulless form, it will provide a robust defensive layer by ensuring that your life remains unchanged as long as you have energy shield remaining. You will be able to take damage without compromising your life. Then third we want the Necromantic Condient. To effectively utilize this node, we need to invest into mana regeneration and max mana, and this will ensure that mana drain does not hinder our overall performance. If done properly, this setup can significantly increase our damage and give this one-shot AoE potential. And lastly we got Blackened Heart. Because of our already higher maximum mana, this will not only enhance the Unholy Might buff, but also support the other lich mechanics that scale with it. By using this 4-node combo, we will do insane damage, but a significant mana drain could become an issue, and that's why you need to follow the specific gear setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Lifespring Wand with the mana drain, max mana, increased cast speed, and the ability to leech percentage of max life whenever we cast a spell. You of course don't have to use this specific weapon if you can afford it, so in any case try to look for something similar. Then also we got an offhand called the Antler Focus with energy shield, reduced attribute requirements, and more levels of all spell skills. Then for helmet we have the Jungle Tiara with energy shield, max life, max energy shield, and more to fire resistance. Then for chest we have the Anchorite Garb with evasion and energy shield. Then also more spirit, max life, and cold resistance. Then for belt we have the Rawhide Belt with increased life flask recovery, max life, and fire and lightning resistance. Then for gloves we got the Torn Gloves with energy shield, max life, and chaos resistance. Then for boots we are using the Silk Slippers with energy shield, increased movement speed, max mana, max life, and lightning resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Sapphire Ring with cold resistance, max life, more to intelligence, and more to cold resistance. While for the second one we have the Ruby Ring with more to fire resistance, max mana, max life, and lightning resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Solar Amulet with more to spirit, max life, and chaos resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. The core damage of our setup is Chaos, which we can use to deal devastation through toxic and cursed spells. You will need to focus on skills that deal Chaos damage over time, such as the Essence Chain, Contagion, and the Malice Burst. And then for defense, we will rely on Energy Shield, so you'll use Life Leech to convert Chaos damage into healing, which will allow you to stay alive during tough encounters. So, we want to start fights by casting Essence Chain that spreads Chaos damage over area, which applies a debuff that makes enemies explode on death, causing AoE damage to nearby enemies as well. We want to maximize its potential by scaling up damage and AoE efficiency. Then also we could use Malice Burst, which is a powerful burst of chaos energy that can be used to hit multiple enemies at once, and it is perfect for clearing large groups of enemies quickly. And then finally we can finish it off with the Contagion, that spreads chaos damage over time to the enemies, and it's perfect for applying chaos damage debuffs to the enemies before they die, which triggers cascading explosions. This setup is known as the Chaos Demon build, which has low life but very high energy shield, where you are constantly balancing your health bar as a resource to fuel your demon flame. The more flame stacks you get, the more damage you deal, but the harder your form is to maintain. However, this build is very cheap to acquire, and very strong already in the beginning stages of progression. On top of this, for our gear we want to build as high life regeneration as possible. So if you like to destroy everything that stands in your way, and don't mind a bit of a build up to get to the highest damage possible, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class I have chosen to go with the Witch, and our ascendancy is the Infernalist. Then for the first skill we have the Hexblast with the support gems such as Inspiration, Arcane Surge, Control Destruction, Arcane Tempo, and Chaos Mastery. Then second we get Contagion with Chaotic Freeze, Hinder, and Encumbrance. Then next we have Blasphemy with Despair and Magnified Effect. Next we have Withering Presence with the Clarity. Next up we have the Essence Drain with the Swift Affliction, Envenom, and Persistence. Next we got Grim Feast with the Cannibalism and Clarity. Next we have Arctic Armor with the Cold Mastery, Glacianation, and Deep Freeze. Then next we got the Demon Form with a Second Wind and Vitality. And finally, for the last one we are using Summon Infernal Hound with the Last Gasp, Elemental Army, Meat Shield, and the Culling Strike. As you can see, most of this setup is structured around using the Hexblast and the Demon Form to delete enemies in seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and our main objective is to look for energy shield and a mana regeneration. Then also we'll get some cast speed, AoE effect, utility in the form of the anti-stun and the anti-freeze, and finally we also need Jewel sockets. So first off we start at this energy shield node, and then get all of these. So Open Mind, Pure Energy, Practice Signs, Dampening Shield, and a Mana Blessing. Then second of all we want to move to the right and then get all of these. So the circle plus the zone of the control and the aestheticism. Then now we want to circle back, and then from here just keep on going until you get to the Arcane Blossom. Then next we wanna move until to the end and then move to the right. And then from here unlock all of these nodes. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again. And for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Demonic Possession to get the Demon Form skill. Then second, get the Loyal Hellhound. Then next we wanna go with the Altered Flesh. And then finally go with this small spell node and the mana node. Next we have our gear. This time our weapon and the offhand doesn't really matter, because when we transform into the demon form, which is going to be pretty much 24/7, then the game stops scaling the damage from our weapon, so which one you choose doesn't really matter. But then while you're leveling and not yet ready to take the leap into the main demon form, then for the weapon and the offhand you want to go with the Attuned Wand and the Crystal Focus. While for bonuses you want pretty much anything that will increase your spell damage and life regeneration. Then for helmet we have the Expert Chain Tiara with the Energy Shield. And for more we want max and increased Energy Shield, then also max mana and fire and cold resistance, as well as life regen every second. Then for the chest we have the Ghost Wrath with the Energy Shield. And for more we got maxed Energy Shield, Chaos Resistance, and most importantly 50% of the max life is now converted to the Energy Shield. This is yet another reason of why we wanna build life and shield as high as possible. But like per most of my builds, this item is not required. And you can go with similar chest pieces as well. But if you're looking for the best in slot, then this is the one for you. Then for the belt we have the Utility Belt with 20% Flask Recovery. And for bonus stats we got max mana, cold and lightning resistance, as well as life regeneration per second. Then for gloves we got the Expert Sombri gloves with the Energy Shield. And for more we got max and increased Energy Shield, then max mana, and finally fire, cold and lightning resistance. Then for boots we're using the Expert Feathered Sandals with the Energy Shield. And for more we got increased movement speed, max Energy Shield, max mana, fire and cold resistance, as well as life regen every second. Then for the first ring we got the Minx Heart. Again, this is not required, but for bonuses we got Chaos Resistance, reduced max life, but now we gain from 30 to 40% more damage as extra chaos damage. As we have built insane amount of life regen and Energy Shield, so we can easily sacrifice this and trade a bit of defense for insane amount of damage. While then for the second one we have the Ruby Ring with the fire resistance. And for more we want max Energy Shield, life regen every second, and fire and cold resistance. And then finally for the amulet we got the Gold Amulet with increased rarity to items. And then for more we need max Energy Shield, max mana, more to spirit, levels of all spell skills, more percentage to all elemental resistances, and life regeneration per second. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is a starter setup, which would be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And as you can see from the gameplay, this is one of the easiest and simplest builds in the game. So our main rotation is just to spam the Contagion and a Hexblast for easy to kill monsters, which are most of our targets. But then specifically for bosses, you then want to use the Contagion, then afterwards the Essence Drain, and then finish it off with the Hexblast. This will give you a great buff and insane amount of chaos damage for single targets. And finally, if you're low geared and run into a mana problem, especially against bosses, then try to get one Javel with the mana on kill or mana on kill from the offhand. Also, this might sound obvious, especially at the beginning, when you may not have unlocked the mana on kill, but if you run out of mana, then just simply cast less skills and wait. You will be doing very high damage anyways, so casting few less skills won't really impact the gameplay that much, but it may reduce your mana consumption, especially if you're undergeared or underleveled. So this is an endgame build that is structured around using the Hexblast in the combination with other chaos skills that will curse and explode enemies in split seconds. Overall, Hexblast has quite high mana cost, and to make it efficient we are going to be using the Masked of the Sanguimancer, which will give us blood magic and increase critical hit chance. So now we can convert mana cost into life. On top of this, when possible we can also use the Asterisk gloves to get instant leech from our critical hits. So then this combination would completely remove the mana from the equation and give us ability to infinitely spam the Hexblast and do massive amounts of damage. The main gameplay idea behind our setup is to one-shot most enemies, and as they die, they will continuously replenish our life and energy shield. However, for the bosses we will need to be careful, as not getting stun locked is our main priority, and that's why we will use a specific setup, such as putting Unbreakable Gem into our Hexblast slot and much more. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the Witch and our ascendancy is Blood Mage. Then for the first skill, we have the Hexblast with support gems such as Inspiration, Considered Casting, Arcane Tempo, Unbreakable and Concentrated Effect. Then second, we get the Dark Effigy with the Envenom, Comorbidity, Ancestral Urgency and the Withering Touch. Then next we got Blasphemy with Despair, Magnified Effect and the Ritualistic Curse. Next we have Blink with Ingenuity. Next up we have the Sigil of the Power with no support gems. Next we got Cast on Critical with Contagion, Essence Drain, the Chaotic Freeze, Energy Retention and the Impetus. And next we have Grim Feast with no support gems. Then next we have the Soul Offering with the Persistence, Minion Mastery and Ablation. And finally for the last one we are using the Skeletal Warrior with the Meat Shield, Last Gasp and the Elemental Army. Most of this setup is structured around using the Hexblast to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Also, don't forget that we are using 2 weapons, so in the first weapon slot we are going with the Blasphemy and the Cast on Critical, while in the second one we have the Skeletal Warrior and the Blink. Next up we have our passive tree. And if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this energy shield node, and then go like this while getting all of these 5. So there are Destruction, Practice Signs, Pure Energy, Dampening Shield and the Critical Overload. Then from here we now move to the right and get all of these 4. So Melding, Critical Exploit, Lingering Horror and the Royal. Then afterwards we circle back a little and then keep going until this point and then go to the left. And here we want to get all of these 3, so the Sudden Escalation, Void and the Heavy Buffer. And then from this point and onwards you can go here and up to the top, and just unlock all the other nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then in the late game to make it even more powerful. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Sanguimancy. This one is just required to take for every Blood Mage, which will make all of our spells will now cast life as well as mana. Then second we get Vitality Siphon, which will give us Life Leech. This is currently the only way on how to get it, as this will give us a ton of extra recovery and make it very useful, especially against bosses. Then third we get Gore Spike. This will increase our critical damage for every 40 life. Ideally, we want to get as high critical bonus as possible. And then finally we get Southern the Flesh. This will allow us to remove some critical hit chance passives and allocate them to the other gem nodes to not go over 100%. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website, and this should make it easier for you to follow the path. Next up we have our Atlas passives, and the general idea behind this is to aim for bonus passives that spawn a lot of grouped up monsters, such as in expeditions or in rituals. So when we start we want to first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, and then keep going down until you get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this we have even more passives, which order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter. So this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Withering Wand with a Chaos Bolt. And for bonus stats we want more extra lightning damage, increased spell and chaos damage, then also plus levels to all chaos spells, and increased critical hit chance and cast speed. On top of this, we also have the second weapon slot in which we are using the Chimming Staff for the Sigil of the Power. And for more we want more levels of all spell skills and increased critical hit chance. And don't forget about the specific abilities I told you to slot in for each weapon in my skill gem part of this video. And then also for the first weapon, we got an offhand called the Advanced Antler Focus with Energy Shield. And for more, we want even more max Energy Shield, increased spell and chaos damage, plus levels of all spell skills and increased critical hit chance and cast speed. Then for the helmet we have the Mask of the Sanguimancier. And during long boss fights we will run into a mana problem, and even just to scale our spamminess of the build we wanna use it, and this will give us blood magic which will convert our mana cost into life. So this is the only required item that you need for this build to work efficiently. Then for chest we have Expert Hexer's Robe with the Energy Shield, and for more we got even more max Energy Shield, max life, more to spirit, and fire, cold and chaos resistance. Then for the belt we have the long belt with increased charm effect duration, and for more we want max life, increased flask life recovery and charm effect duration, as well as plus charm slots, and then finally we also want the fire and chaos resistance. Then for gloves we got the Acerus with armor. This is not required, however, if you want to scale your damage to the max and completely remove mana cost from our life, then we want to get these gloves as well. Then for boots we're using the Expert Feather Sandals with the Energy Shield, and for more we need increased movement speed, max energy and life, and also cold, lightning and chaos resistance. Then for the first ring we have the Amethyst Ring with the chaos resistance, and for bonus stats we got increased chaos damage, max life, increased cast speed, more to all elemental resistances and chaos resistance. While for the second one we have the Pearl Ring with increased cast speed. And for more we want increased chaos damage, max life, increased cast speed, more to all elemental resistances and chaos resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Solar Amulet with more to spirit. And for extras we got max life and Energy Shield, then even more to spirit, then plus levels to all spell skills, then even increased critical hit chance and more percentage to all elemental resistances. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is just a starter setup, which would be more of an example of what stats and prefixes that you need to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. And this setup is pretty straightforward. So for mapping we simply want to spam the Hexblast, which when we reduce our mana cost to pretty much 0 and increase our cast speed, then we can even further maximize our DPS output. On top of this, because of the insane spam potential, so we won't have to worry about the enemies, as they will die very quickly. However, for stronger targets, watch out for stuns and getting stun locked, which is the only real danger that we want to avoid as much as possible. And then finally for the boss fights, this time we want to start by activating the Sigil of the Power. And then from this point just again spam the Hexblast until the boss dies. And then just reactivate debuffs as soon as they expire.